political analyst, is here to talk about all things Donald Trump. Good morning, Matt Dowd.
Good morning. Great to be here. Thanks.
So let's talk about this strategy. Actually, a pretty smart move on Donald Trump's part to accept the invitation to go meet with the president of Mexico.
Like many of us who have crossed down a border crossing, it's high risk, high reward when this. I mean, I think it has an opportunity, I think, to be a big thing for him, and I think it's you have to give Donald Trump credit for rolling the dice on something like this. But it also has a high risk because you don't know what's going to happen in the aftermath of this visit and then as it leads into the speech tonight. So, as I say, it's got a huge upside, but there is a downside to it.
What is this speech going to do? What can he do since he staked out every single position possible in the last week and a half?
Well, I think well, that's a very good question. I think what he needs to do with this speech is actually bring clarity to an issue that all his voters and supporters thought he had. And then over the last 10 days, it's fuzzed it and become somewhat sketchy in this. So I think he has to bring clarity to it and consistency to it and explain if he's made any move off his original position, why he did that and why that's important. So he needs clarity most of all. Matt,
we've also seen him change strategy a little bit since his new team is around him. He's not necessarily touching the DEFCON 5 area. He's maybe in the 3, the 2.5 to 3.5. Because he's not as bombastic, is he sort of being lost in the news cycle because he's not red hot as he was?
Well, I think that, obviously Donald Trump being Donald Trump has gathered him a lot of news for the last 400 and so days since he first came down that escalator last July. But I actually do think he needs to do things that sort of endear him to a broader group of voters. Right now, he sits around 40% of the vote. He has to figure out how he can get to 45 or 46 or 47% of the vote. And that next 4, 5, 6 points he needs is our folks that wonder about him and his behavior. And so I think this is a strategy to go after that. The problem, as you sort of touched on, is that his voters are used to a certain kind of Trump. And if he changes into some other kind of Trump, there's a question about whether or not they're going to be as enthusiastic as he needs.
What do you make of the news that he's not really doing any debate prep and doesn't have any formal coaching?
Well, if that's his strategy, that's a mistake. This debate, to me, the most important moments coming in this campaign over the next 68 days or so are the 3 presidential debates and 1 vice presidential debate. Those are the only things that are going to fundamentally change the nature of this race. Right now, Donald Trump consistently is down by around 5 points if you look at the average of the polls. That's been consistent now for 3 months when we look at this. And so I think he needs to do as well as possible, especially in that first debate, which could have Super Bowl-type ratings.
Wow, that's really interesting. The New York Times today, Thomas Friedman says, say what you want about Hillary Clinton and the emails, she's got the chops to be president. He's awfully light on specifics. So the fact that he's not going to study up on names and places and dates and sort of current events, he's walking into a arena without a tightrope or without a net, I guess.
Well, yeah, but he's run this entire campaign without a net, and it was successful in the primaries. And I think the question is, when you have 135, 140 million people are voting in a general election, much different than a primary, can he keep doing that? I don't think he needs to get in total detail on specific policies, but he needs to have enough of a grasp that the contrast isn't too dramatic between somebody they don't like, which is Hillary Clinton, but they think, okay, is competent, between also somebody they don't like that they right now many voters view as not ready for the presidency. He needs to convince the voters he's ready for the presidency, and if he can do that, he actually has a chance to win this election.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Matt Dowd, one of the best in the business, ABC News correspondent. Matt, thanks for checking in.
Great to be here.
6:56.